Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 10th of December and welcome to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So guys, let's start with the video. In today's video, we are going to discuss the entire analysis of the Hindu newspaper. We'll take all the articles, we'll simplify them, and along with the background as well as the way forward, we'll take the articles. Now, before starting up, I would like to tell that if you are new here, you can download the synoptic notes of the article that we have taken. In these synoptic notes, you will find the detailed simplified notes of all the articles. You can download these notes from the Telegram channel. The link for the Telegram channel has been given in the description box in YouTube. Moreover, you can visit the Telegram and can search there by typing Thinking Palette by Sahil. There also you will get these notes. And into the last, a mains practice question has also been given. So guys, please download the notes. Now, before starting up, I would like to give you the brief overview of the newspaper so that we can understand that actually which articles are important for the examination and what is the placement of those articles. So let's take that. Now here we have the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper, and the first article, Congress struggles to reach consensus on Himachal CM. Not important article. Rains onto the Tamil Nadu coast, etc. have been provided. Then guys, again political articles, etc. are given. They are not important for the exam. Here we can see the collegium's final decision alone needs to be in public domain. So with respect to the RTI's application onto the collegium's discussion, this particular ruling has been given by the Supreme Court. We'll see this particular article as what it is talking about. Then further moving on in this particular line, guys. Then coming to the city section, so the regional section might be different if you are having the different edition of the Hindu newspaper. In this regional section, there are the basically regional political news, etc. that has been given, not important for the examination, guys. Again, the advertisements and the regional political news, etc. has been given. Moving on, however, here we see that an important article, that is the 3 Himalayan medicinal plants enter IUCN Red List, has been given. We'll see this particular article. Then hot test of SCRAMJET engine conducted successfully. We'll see this particular article also. Okay. Then Karnataka High Court shocked by agreement for adoption of unborn child. We'll see this particular article as well. Vikram Sarabhai Space Center gets new trisonic wind tunnel. Then guys, further moving on. After that, coming to the editorial page. And into the editorial page, the first article, expand the food safety net without any more delay. We'll see this particular article with respect to the examination, hunger related issues. The G20 can be the UN Security Council alternative. This particular article also will take. Then guys, again moving on, anchoring prices. So basically the article is talking about that how recently the monetary policy, the RBI's policy statement, okay, has come, and in this particular thing it has been provided that still the inflation stays high, and in this particular direction, guys, the repo rate is being increased. Now basically, as the monetary policy committee and its reports or the RBI reports are coming from time to time, and as they are giving the month by month data about the inflation, I have told you many number of times that you need not to track every month's data in this particular direction. At the end of the year, when the economic survey will come, we'll see what has been the trends over the years. Then the article is talking about the recent election results that have been there. Then what contributed to BJP's victories into the Gujarat. Now guys, the article is basically this particular page is filled with the political articles talking about recent election results that had come. Now if you have interest into the politics, you can read this particular article, but with respect to the academic aspect, much of substance has not been given in the article, so no need to go in that thing. Then further moving on, after that again AAP helped BJP to get biggest victory in Gujarat. So these political elections, etc., not important. Now here we can see that bill seeks setting up of commission to curb the medical cost. So this is an important article with respect to the increasing out of pocket expenditure. We'll see this particular article. Then center introduces bill to modify the ST list into the 4 states. Again, we'll see this particular article as well. Raise age bar for marriage of Muslim women, NCW. Now guys, understand this particular thing that when we talk about the marriageable age for the women, there is 2 issues that are going on. Okay, now in the article much things are not there, but the 2 issues are going on which is beyond the scope of this particular article. Understand. Number one, there was the Jaya Jetli Commission that was constituted. Jaya Jetli Commission. Now the Jaya Jetli Commission has provided this particular thing that the women's age for marriage, which is right now 18 years as per the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act, it should be increased to 21 years, okay, because the boy's age is 21. So the Jaya Jetli Commission recommendations are there. Now on this particular thing, guys, the final decision has not come up till now. Second thing that comes here is that, guys, that actually when we talk about the women, as per the personal law of the Muslims, women can get married once they achieve puberty. Once they achieve puberty, that is around 14 or 15 years of age. So that is something by which again the disparity comes. So the age of the Muslim girls for the marriage is to be increased. This is said by the National Commission for Women. Is it clear or not? So this is something that is going on. Then further moving on, India-China trade deficit is at $551.5 billion. So guys, automatically we can see this particular thing, that the dependence on China is still high. Okay, BJP bill moves private bills in Rajya Sabha, resistance from opposition. Okay, so guys, basically the Uniform Civil Code, it is just being talked about here. Uniform Civil Code means that there needs to be the same personal laws for all the religion or for all the communities. Right now, when we talk about India, guys, the criminal laws are same for all the communities, but the personal civil laws are not same. The communities can have their own laws, and into the personal civil laws, there are the 4 subjects which come. That is the marriage, divorce, adoption, and inheritance. Is it clear or not? Article 44 of the Indian Constitution talks about the UCC, that the Uniform Civil Code should be implemented, but up till now it's not there, and from time to time the bills are raised for that particular thing, but guys, nothing concrete has come in this particular direction. Then further moving on, ILO Declaration urges countries to ensure labor protection. We'll see this particular article. Fine. Then Bharat Jodo Yatra 9-day break, not important. Supreme Court declines to pitch in on plea regarding religious processions. Then China prepares for huge COVID-19 upsurge, not important articles, guys, with respect to the examination. Then India not as decoupled. We'll see this particular article with what the article is talking about. Public capital expenditure pace can slow, says CEA, that is the chief economic advisor. Fine. Then after that, the corporate trends, etc., are not important, and then we have the sports page. So this is all, guys, about the overview of the newspaper, and now let's discuss all the relevant articles one by one in the detail. Okay, now starting up. So guys, first of all, in every class we take the GS quotation. Now this particular quotation we use to complement our questions in GS paper number 1, 2, 3 or 4. So today we are going to take the quotation from Mehboob ul Haq, who has been a prominent economist. Mehboob ul Haq says that in the last analysis, the human security means a child who did not die, a disease that did not spread, an ethnic tension that did not explode, a dissident who was not silenced, a human spirit that was not crushed. So this is something that we mean by the human security. So guys, often we talk about the national security, the food security, the nutritional security, the women's security, the child security, but no, we need to talk about the human security, which will be encompassing on all the fronts. Fine, it will encompass the child security, basically the health security, it will encompass the social security, and all such kind of securities will be embedded in that. So the human security is something which needs to be focus of all the governments and all the developmental activities. So this particular idea can be conveniently used in a large variety of questions across GS 1, 2, 3, 4 and even into the essays. That is all, guys, about this particular quotation, and now let's take the first article. Okay, and before, guys, moving on, if you are liking the video, please do hit the like button. Okay, please do support the initiative. Now the first article, it talks about the ILO Declaration urges countries to ensure labor protection. Okay, now we'll take this particular article with respect to the GS paper number 2 employment, GS paper number 2 employment, as well as in GS paper number 3 also. Within the issues of the state of Indian economy, the employment related issues can be taken up. Moreover, this particular article will see also with respect to the prelims also, there is one particular point that is there which is important. Now let's talk about the article. So basically, guys, first of all, what has happened, the International Labour Organization's 17th Asia Pacific Regional Meeting has been held. And into this Asia Pacific Regional Meeting, what they have done, they have taken up the Singapore Declaration. Now, understand this particular thing. Into the prelims examination, the questions from the international organizations, international bodies are asked. Fine. For example, the question might be asked that recently Singapore Declaration was in news. It was released by whom, or what this particular declaration focuses upon, Already the question onto the Beijing Declaration has been asked, so such kind of a questions have been asked. So Singapore Declaration has been released. Now this Singapore Declaration, it is talking about the 10-point priorities, 10-point priorities onto the wages of the workers, inflation, unemployment. So basically this ILO's Asia and Pacific regional meeting has talked about that in the post-pandemic world, the workers well-being, okay, the workers well-being, the laborers well-being, okay, it is something which needs to be focused upon. So therefore a 10-point national action plan, a 10-point national action plan should be prepared by all the countries. This is the spirit of this Singapore Declaration, and this declaration is talking about that urgently there is a need to create a social dialogue, and in this social dialogue the labor market challenges needs to be discussed. Fine. Solutions about the labor market challenges are to be found out. Moreover, if you take particularly with respect to the India, there was the reverse migration that got started in 2020 after the lockdown was announced. So the laborers, workers are particularly more vulnerable, and to identify those vulnerabilities, to identify the solutions for those vulnerabilities, a social dialogue is needed to be held. Moreover, it also has asked the government that government needs to ensure the labor protection. Now you see this particular thing. Into the names of the ease of doing business, everywhere we find that the labor rights are being negated, labor rights are being getting reduced, but that is not something which is very much good. So we need to promote the freedom of association. Freedom of association, it means that the workers should be allowed to form the trade unions. Fine. Effective recognition of right to collective bargaining. Collective bargaining. Now guys, what is collective bargaining? Basically you see that when we talk about the employer and employee, so there is an unequal bargaining power into the employee, because employee is more dependent onto the employer. So all the employees should come together and should be able to collectively bargain, and for that they need unions, they need association. So the right of collective bargaining needs to be given. So in certain regions it is restricted. Then the workers in vulnerable situations, particularly the workers in informal economy, they need to be emphasized. Now many number of times when the policies are coming, when the government schemes are coming, they are focusing on formal sector workers, but we need to understand that 91% of India's workforce is in unorganized and informal sector. So as per that, these workers are needed to be more focused. Moreover, this Singapore Declaration has also talked about bridging the, it has also talked about closing the gender gaps. Now guys, there are the gender gaps at multiple levels. For example, number one is the gender pay gap. And according to the ILO, gender pay gap in India is at 34%. It means that for the same work, the women will be paid 34% less than what the men will be paid. So there is a gender pay gap. Then there is the pay. Then there is the gaps with respect to the representation of women into the workplace. As we know that there is basically the missing women from the workplace. When we talk about the labor force participation rate of the women in India, it is around 1/4. It is around 1/4 or around 25 to 27%. So therefore, these gender gaps are also needed to be addressed. Women's labor force participation is to be increased. Equal pay for equal work is to be provided, and equal pay for equal work is also a principle mentioned under the DPSP of the India also. Then balance work, balance responsibilities, promoting the women's leadership, women's role into the leadership also is to be promoted. Fine. Then this particular framework has also talked about strengthening the governance framework for protecting the right of the migrant workers. Now guys, on this particular direction, already government has brought the e-Shram portal where the migrant workers will be recorded, so that if any assistance is to be given to them, they can be provided for that. Okay, so this is something that has been brought out into the Singapore Declaration that has been come out of the ILO's Asia Pacific regional meeting. Very important article, we can quote it in the examination. Now moving to the next article. Okay, and before moving on, good morning to all of you. Okay, happy Varpala, Sunita, Hardik, Aman, Pallavi, Akshay, INS Patel, Apantoiba, Rohini, Akashdeep, Pavan, Musical, Meenu, Bhagyarani, Nitin, Somik, Ganesh, Shraddha, Anupam, Anil. Good morning. Good morning, guys. Good morning to everyone. Now moving to the next article. 3 Himalayan medicinal plants enter IUCN Red List. Okay. Now, this particular article is very, very important for the prelims examination. Very important article with respect to the prelims examination. Okay. as well as in the GS paper number 3 and ecology and conservation. Okay, more important for prelims exam. So basically guys, the IUCN, okay, IUCN, IUCN releases the red list. Now in this red list, there are the species whose names appear which are threatened, which are vulnerable. So recently the IUCN red list has been released, and recently into the IUCN's red list, there are the 3 Himalayan medicinal plants that have entered, 3 Himalayan medicinal plants that have entered. Now understand this particular thing. Entering into the IUCN red list is not something which is a matter of pride. Entering into the IUCN red list means that that particular species of plant or the species of animal is threatened, is vulnerable, is endangered, because it may be because of natural reasons, it may be because of the anthropogenic reasons or the man-made reasons. Now most of the times these are the anthropogenic reasons. So now the 3 medicinal plants of the Himalayas have been featured into the IUCN red list. Now one by one we will see them, and one by one we'll also see that why or what are the threats that are there onto these particular species. Number one, it is the Mastropis pellita. Mastropis pellita. Now the Mastropis pellita has been listed as critically endangered. Critically endangered. Now commonly it is also called as the patwa. Patwa. Now this Mastropis pellita or the patwa, it is endemic to Uttarakhand. It is endemic to Uttarakhand. Okay. Now first of all, this particular species is listed as critically endangered because now it is found in a limited area, just that is just 10 square kilometers. So there is a limited occupancy of this particular species. Beyond that, it is majorly not found. Now it has been threatened because of the rapid deforestation that is happening, then the habitat fragmentation. Okay, habitat fragmentation has happened, then the forest fires. Now if you know this particular thing, from the last couple of years there are excessive forest fires that are happening. They have also threatened their survival. Now when we talk about this particular patwa plant, it is very important. Particularly the leaves of this particular plant are important. Now you see this thing, some plants bark is important, some plants leaves are important, some plants roots, some plants tubers are important. So this particular plant's leaves are very important, and from these particular leaves as an essential oil is procured, and this essential oil has the strong antioxidant properties. Moreover, because of this, it has the strong antioxidant properties. It can play a role of a substitute for the synthetic antioxidants. Okay, so chemical based antioxidants it can replace and can be very important for the pharmaceutical industries. Moreover, when we talk about India, India is the world's largest generic manufacturer of the drugs, etc. So there also it can help. Then the next is the Fritillaria cirrhosa. Fritillaria cirrhosa. It is also called as sometimes the Himalayan fritillary, and it has been listed as vulnerable. It has been listed as vulnerable. Now, basically, why it has been vulnerable? Because it has been said that 30% of its population has declined over the 20 to 26 years. So, basically, a long-term study is made. So, over the last 20 to 26 years, 30% of its population has been declined. Moreover, the rate of decline is very much fast. Okay, there is the long generation length, poor germination potential. Okay, germination of this particular plant is not happening. Then there is a high trade value of this plant. Because of the high trade value, what is happening, that plant is getting extracted and naturally the plant is not growing. After that, there is extensive harvesting pressure, illegal trade. Okay, because of this particular thing, it is called as the vulnerable. Now this particular plant, in the China, this particular plant is used for treatment of the bronchial disorders or pneumonia, and it is a very effective cough suppressant. Because of that particular thing, its demand is high, but the natural growth is not happening, so therefore it is vulnerable. Then moving on, the next is Dactylorhiza hetagiria. It is listed as endangered. And what are the threats? The threats are the habitat loss, livestock grazing. So as the livestock grazing is happening, okay, basically this particular plant's habitat is getting threatened. Deforestation, climate change. and this particular plant is excessively used in the Ayurveda, Siddh, Unani, that is the alternative medicine. So we have allopathy, and the alternative medicines apart from the allopathy are the Ayurveda, Siddh, Unani. Okay, they are used to treat the dysentery, gastritis, cough, fever, cough, chronic fever, cough, stomach aches, all these particular things. So these are the three species of the Himalayas that have entered into the IUCN Red List, and on to the species also the questions are asked. So please keep it in your mind. That is all about it. And now we'll move to the next article. Center introduces bill to modify the scheduled tribe list into the 4 states. Okay. Now this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2 social justice. GS paper number 2 social justice. Now by the way, in the last few days, many number of times the tribes etc. has come into the news. Okay, the already multiple number of times we have seen the procedure as how the scheduled tribes are identified. Is it clear or not? Okay, that is something that we have discussed. Now basically what has happened right now, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs have carried a basically introduced the bills to add the scheduled tribes into the list. Now see this particular thing. First of all, the 4 bills have been introduced, and the people at the scheduled tribes will be added into the state of Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Himachal Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh. Understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about the scheduled tribes, scheduled tribes are notified state by state. Okay, there might be a possibility that a particular tribe might got the SC status in one state but not into the another state. Something can happen. Just a minute. Okay, now a minute. Yes. Now, so guys, basically you need to keep in mind basically the 2 articles that has been provided into the Indian constitutions whenever we are talking about the tribal people. Number 1, Article 366. So Article 366 provides that the scheduled tribes will be those tribes who are notified as a scheduled tribe as per the Article 342 of the Indian Constitution. And under Article 342, it has been provided that the scheduled tribes will be those people who will be notified as scheduled tribe by the president. Is it clear or not? So this is something that has been provided under Article 342. Moreover, guys, for adding the names into the scheduled tribes list, or basically when we talk about the scheduled tribes, all their names have actually been mentioned into the Constitution Order of 1950. So basically for inserting those names into the Constitution Order of 1950, basically the bill is to be introduced, and now the center government has introduced this particular bill. So basically we need to see that what are these tribals and in which state these particular tribals are listed, because these particular types of questions have been asked multiple number of times into the past in the prelims examination. So this particular article is again going to be very important article for prelims also, and in fact in today's newspaper many articles for the prelims have been there. Number 1 is that this particular bill will add Nari Koruvan and Kuruvikaran. So Nari Koruvan and Kuruvikaran, these are the hill tribes. They are found into the Tamil Nadu, and they are being added into the ST list, scheduled tribe list. Okay, the pronunciation might be wrong also, or might be little bit not correct. Okay, so apologies for that thing. Now when we talk about these 2 tribes, that is the Nari Koruvan and Kuruvikaran tribe, their inclusion has been suggested since 1965. And even the Lokur committee, which was established onto the scheduled tribes status, it has also suggested that these 2 tribes are needed to be added into the tribal list into the Tamil Nadu. But up till now it was not done, and now the bill has been proposed. Then the next tribe is basically the bill to introduce the Beta Kuruba as a synonym for the Kadu Karuba tribe. It has been added. Now you see this particular thing. This is a very big problem that, see, The people who belonged to one indigenous community, they are being called as by the many different names. Is it clear or not? Sometimes the spellings are different, sometimes the names are different. So what happens, let's say one particular tribal family is using some other synonym, okay, because of that particular thing they will not be identified. For example, when we talk about the Kada Kuruba, now the Kada Kuruba, it is a tribe and its members are also known as the Beta Kuruba. But when they use the word Beta Kuruba, they are not identified as the STs. So Beta Kuruba has been added as a synonym of the Kadu Kuruba in the ST list of the Karnataka. So this is something that is being done. Then the same problem is there into the Chhattisgarh also. For example, guys, basically the number of synonyms in Devanagari script file are being added for the Bhariya Bhumiya. Okay, now it has been provided that many tribes are there into the Chhattisgarh, okay, but because they are using the different spelling names, they are not being recognized. So the bill to add the synonym for the Bhariya Bhumiya for the Bhariya Bhumiya tribe is getting added. So it is there into the ST, but the different names, different spellings, different variations are now being added. And then the next they will be added into the ST list of Chhattisgarh. And then the next is the Hatti community of the Himachal Pradesh, the Sirmaur district. Such Sirmaur district, now Sirmaur is into the Himachal Pradesh, fine. Okay, so there the Hatti tribe will also be added. Now this particular community will be added into the ST list. It was notified into the month of September, and now finally it is being done. So these are the tribes from the different states, 4 tribes that are getting added. Okay, that is all about this particular article. I hope guys that you have understood it, and now we'll move to the next article. Hot test of scramjet engine conducted successfully. Now, basically, guys, what this particular article is all about. This article is just a minute. This article is talking about the hot test. Hot test means a test in which the engine will be will be tested into the real life situation. The fuel will be put down there, and hot test or the wet rehearsal is that in real life type of circumstances the vehicle will be made to operate. So the scramjet engines hot test has been conducted. Now, let's understand this particular article. This particular article will be important for the prelims examination, science and technology. Prelims examination, science and technology, and even in GS paper number 3, science and technology, this particular article will be important. So briefly, we'll understand that what this scramjet engine is all about, and in very simple ways, okay, we'll try to understand it. Understand that when we talk about the prelims examination, the science and tech questions which are coming, they are very broad questions. Broad questions means that if you have the broad understanding of a topic, if you have the conceptual understanding, you will be able to mark the correct answer. So basically the scramjet engines, let's discuss them one by one. Okay, fine. So basically guys, the scramjet engines, just a minute. Okay, they can operate at a hypersonic speeds. First of all, what do we mean by the hypersonic? Okay, so guys, there is actually number one, there is a subsonic. Subsonic means less than the speed of the less than the speed of the sound. Then there is sonic. Sonic means equal to the speed of the sound. Then there is supersonic. Supersonic means the speed more than the speed of the sound. Okay, so basically the sonic is equal to the speed of sound, subsonic is less than the speed of the sound, supersonic is more than the speed of the sound. Okay, and then there is the hypersonic. So hypersonic means around 5 times than the speed of the sound, 5 times, or sometimes some places you will also find it at around 3 or 4 times. So 3 to 5 times more than the speed of the sound is called as the hypersonic. Now understand this particular thing, that when the rockets or the launchers are being released from the earth, and when they have to place the satellite in the orbit, they need to propel at high speeds and they need to have a significant thrust. that significant thrust is needed so that they can escape the gravity of the earth. Okay, so a significant thrust is needed, and when we talk about the significant thrust, that thrust can be achieved, more the thrust will be there if the speed will be more. So basically we try to have more and more speeds into the rocket launchers, and now we are working on the scramjet engines will be able to operate efficiently at the hypersonic speeds, that is around 5 times the speed of the sound. Now in these particular engines, scramjet engine, basically they are also called as the breather engines. Here you find this particular thing, guys, that they will absorb the air, there will be the air inlet. Now this particular air will be compressed, and then that particular air will enter into the combustion channel. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about the scramjet engines, they carry the hydrogen fuel. Now for oxidation of this particular hydrogen fuel, the oxygen is needed. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about the rockets, traditionally the rockets, they carried the oxidizer along with that, and this oxidizer also has its own weight, and if the weight of the oxidizer will be more, what will happen, the fuel carrying capacity will be reduced. Now in these scramjet engines, what they need to do, they need to just carry the hydrogen fuel, and the oxidation will happen from the environmental oxygen that is there. So it will just breathe the environmental oxygen. So here we can see that when the air intake is happening, in that particular air there is also the oxygen that is present. That particular oxygen is compressed and into this particular combustion, just a minute. And here we can see that in this particular combustion chamber, what is happened, the oxygen will mix with the hydrogen, and here there will be the combustion that will happen, and it will provide the thrust to this particular engine. Is it clear or not? So you can just read it also, that the supersonic combustion, by breathing oxygen from the atmosphere during the flight, it allows the oxygen to mix with the hydrogen already stored into the vehicle to trigger the combustion, and it produces the significant thrust. Clear? Now it has been provided that it can the engine in the launch, it can breathe the oxygen from the atmosphere, and 70% of the propellant that has to be carried, fine, it can be reduced. Okay, now this hot test of this scramjet engine has been carried successfully at the ISRO's Propulsion Research Complex at Mahendragiri. Where is the Mahendragiri? Mahendragiri is into the Tirunelveli district of the Tamil Nadu. So there this propulsion test has been carried. So this is all, guys, about this particular article. I hope that you have understood it, and for the science and tech this can be an important development. Now we'll move to the next article. Okay. Now let's read first of all the heading, as what the heading reads, and after that we'll go into the details of the article. Karnataka High Court shocked by agreement for adoption of the unborn child. Now guys, this particular article can act as a case study for GS paper number 4 ethics. GS paper number 4 ethics case study. Okay. Now let's understand that what this particular article is all talking about. So basically, guys, before going in this particular article, I would like to give you some of a little bit background. Okay, and after understanding this particular background, we'll go in that. See, the article is just talking one angle, that is the legal angle, but ethical angle we'll try to introduce here. Okay, so see this particular thing. Basically, guys, there is one particular word that we use, that is the morals. Now, what do we understand by morals? Moral means one's own understanding with respect to the right and wrong. What a person perceives as right, what a person perceives as wrong, is that particular person's morals. Then we have law. Now guys, what is law? Law is simply a code of conduct which has been established by the authority and which carries a penal provision, which means that if you don't follow this particular law, you will be punished. Either there can be the financial penalty, or there can be physical penalty, or any such kind of a penalty will be there. So basically, we have the morals and we have the laws. Sometimes, guys, the laws and morals might go hand in hand, but sometimes what you think might be moral cannot be allowed by the law. Okay, what you think is right, law might not allow that. Now, this is something which has happened in this particular case study, this particular article. We'll see that. So basically, what has happened? The Karnataka High Court took the cognizance of that of one particular matter that happened in 2020 into the Karnataka. So what happened? Actually, I'll tell you in very simple words. So in 2020 in the Karnataka, one Muslim married couple, okay, they signed an agreement with a Hindu married couple that the Muslim couple will give the child that will be born to them to the Hindu couple. It was, now the article says that this particular agreement happened because of the Muslim couple. They were very poor, and they said that because of their poverty they will not be able to sustain the child that will be born to them, and that Hindu couple, they agreed to take that particular child and will give the good quality of life to that particular child. This was something that was provided. Now the agreement was signed, and after 1 week the child was born, and the adoptive parents, that is the Hindu adoptive parents, they took that particular child's custody. That was happened. Now that particular child, they the child stayed with that family, but the district child protection unit, which is to conserve the rights of the children, got that information, and they lodged a complaint in 2021, around 1 year later, against that particular couple who had adopted the child. They had said this particular thing, that how the child was adopted even when the child was not born, how the agreement for the adoption was signed even before the child was not born. Okay, this is something that happened, and basically then the custody of the child was taken back from the adoptive parents. Now the adoptive parents has reached to the High Court, and the High Court has also said that this is a shocking thing, that agreement for adoption have been entered by the two couples with respect to an unborn child. It has been said that such a kind of an adoption cannot be allowed. Why? Because guys, basically the Hindu and the Muslim laws for the adoptions doesn't allow that particular thing. Okay, it has been said that the right to life is there even to that unborn child also. Article 21, right to life is there to that unborn child. Moreover, as a part of that right to life, as a part of the right to liberties to that particular unborn child, such decisions cannot be made before a child is not born. So this has been provided, and it was said that DCPU, District Child Protection Unit, that has filed the case was correct. This is something that has happened. But now guys, here it is being said that it doesn't goes in line with the law. It doesn't goes in line with the law, and judiciary is correct. Judiciary will interpret the law only. But at the same time, if we see the reasoning that has been provided here, the reasoning is something like this, that the couple who adopted the child, they did that particular thing out of the compassion and out of the love, and the couple who actually conceived that particular child, because they were poor, they were not able to raise that particular child. So what happened basically, what happened at the same time, the people who were not able to afford the good education for that child, who were not able to sustain, they now was able to give the better life to that particular child, and they also got an opportunity to raise a child. So this could be a situation which might be moral from both the parties end, but might not be legal. So this is something that you need to see. That is all about this particular article, guys. And now we'll move to the next article. Bill seeks setting up of commission to curb the medical cost. Now this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2 health. GS paper number 2 health. Now guys, when we talk about the health in India, though the health is recognized as a fundamental right under the article number 21, it is an implicit, not an explicit right. Fine, under article number 21. But at the same time, we find that in India, the out of pocket expenditure is very much high. The out of pocket expenditure in India stands at around 62%. Okay, some reports quoted around 60%, some reports quoted around 62%, but according to the WHO, the out of pocket expenditure is at 62%. It means that in these many cases, the people did not had money as the savings to pay for the medical expenditure. They paid for the medical expenditure either by taking a loan or by selling some property, etc. So out of pocket expenditure is very much high. And at the same time, guys, when we talk about the health insurance penetration in India, it stands at around 3.96%, or just you can say 4%. So as people did not have health insurance, as people are poor, as the private sector is more prevalent into the India, we need to have an arrangement that the medical cost, the cost for diagnostic test, etc., is needed to be kept under a control. Now it has been observed many number of times that for the same test, different hospitals are charging different amount of money. Is it clear or not? Fine. So this is something that can be observed. Now, basically, it has been seen that in India there is a rapid increase into the cost of the medical treatment, okay, as well as into the cost of the tests and the diagnostics. So, this basically the National Commission for Controlling the Medical Inflation will be created as per this particular bill. Guys, it is a private member bill that has been raised. Private member bill means a bill that is raised by a member in the parliament who is not a minister. However, when we talk about the private members bill, the probability that these particular bills will be passed is always very much less. So the bill to establish the National Commission for Controlling Medical Inflation has been provided. This particular commission will regulate, this particular commission will, just a minute, it will regulate and will standardize the rising cost of medicine, diagnostics, test, pathological examinations. And it has been provided that this particular bill, this particular commission, it will consist a chairperson, a deputy chairperson, and a 5 members which will be appointed by the president. Now, this particular bill is indeed good. It has a good spirit. And though the private members bills are not that passed easily, but this bill should be passed into the public spirit. This is something which is good. That is all about this particular article, and now we'll move to the next article. The G20 can be the UN Security Council alternative. Now, this particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, international and multilateral groupings, Okay. So, guys, yesterday also there was one article on the G20, and I have told you in advance that this particular year, many articles on the G20 will be coming. Reason that India has become the president of the G20 for the 2023 year. So, multiple articles throughout the year will be coming. So, you need to be ready for that. Now, this particular article is talking about that how the G20 can move beyond the economic body and can play a political role as well. Okay, now let's understand this particular article. So article is talking about that, see, that India has taken the G20's presidency, and right now the Russia-Ukraine war is the biggest political crisis that is going on in the world. Now, there is a certain reluctance in India to take the bull by the horns. Now, to take the bull by the horns, basically, to end the Russian invasion of Ukraine, India is not very much confident as how India should approach. Understand this particular thing. India is in a very sticky, in a very messy kind of a situation. Why? Because understand this thing, that we have never condemned the Russia for the Ukraine war. We never pinned down the responsibility entire onto the Russia, because we were following our strategic autonomy. But as now the India has become the president of the G20, the questions will, the countries will ask the questions from the India that what you are actually doing to condemn the Russia or to stop this particular Russia-Ukraine war. Okay, we need to command one or the other country in that particular respect, and actually the weight is more in favor of Ukraine and the weight is against the Russia. What India will do? Okay, we have not condemned Russia up till now, so we are a little bit in a situation where we are not able to assess what is to be done. Now see this particular thing, okay, right now the world is looking as an alternative the United Nations Security Council also. Why the world is looking for an alternative? Because the United Nations Security Council was established by the mandate of establishing peace in the world. But what has happened, though the UNSC was there, but UNSC has not been able to avoid many of the confrontations, many of the disputes, particularly because of the veto power that has been given to the permanent 5 members. Okay, whenever any particular decision against these members are taken, they use their veto power and never the decisions are passed. Now, basically, because of the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, the UNSC's credibility has been questioned. That what you have done nothing. That is something that is happening. Now, into the past, we have also talked about the bringing UNSC reforms. Now, guys, when we talk about the United Nations Security Council, the permanent 5 members that are there, okay, they have the most of the power because they hold the veto, but the Asia is underrepresented. Africa is not represented, Latin America is not properly represented, only the Western world or the global north is represented significantly into the UNSC. So over the years, India had talked about that the seats, permanent member seats are to be increased into the UNSC. But that particular thing only happened can happen when all the members of the UNSC agrees to that particular thing, but never they will agree. So it has been said that rather than reforming the UNSC, what we can do, we can make the G20 as a new UNSC. Understand this thing? When we talk about the G20, it consists the 19 countries and the European Union. And in terms of the weightage of the G20, we find this particular thing that the 85% of GDP, 85% of GDP, 75% of international trade, and 66% of the population is contained into the G20 countries. So it is significantly an economic bloc. It is a demographically very powerful bloc, and it also holds a strategic clout because of the membership that's contained in the G20. So because of that particular thing, guys, the G20 happens to be very important, and it's being provided that today the G20 is addressing such large array of issues. It is addressing the global economy, it is addressing the global stability, climate change mitigation, sustainable development, all these particular things it is working upon. Okay, so it has been provided that why it doesn't transitions even into the security group, even into the security blocking. When we talk about the G20, we find that adequately all the major world countries are actually accommodated in G20. For example, it contains the developed countries, it contains the developed countries, the developing countries, Africa, Latin America, all are represented there. Okay, so therefore the G20, if any decisions is brought in G20, it can be something which will be which can if the any G20 decision is reached into the G20, then it will become universally acceptable because of the broad based composition of the G20. So therefore today we need to focus on transformation of G20 from an economic body to a political body, and here we need to put forward the matter of the Russia-Ukraine war, and India should become the peacemaker into the Europe, because if we successfully solve this Russia-Ukraine dispute, if the war came to an end, it will prove the leadership skills of the India, and India will become a suitable contender suitable contender for the superpower nation status. Now, already recently the Bali Declaration that was held into the Indonesia, in the Bali Declaration, fine, the roadmap that was adopted, in that particular roadmap, all the countries came onto the platform, came onto the consensus that right now the world is facing the biggest crisis into the form of the Russia-Ukraine war, and it is to be tamed. Continuing on that particular line, in the 2023, India should organize the Sherpa to take up on this particular agenda. Now, within the G20, I have told you yesterday that there are the two-track negotiations that go on. There are the Sherpa track negotiations, and then there are the finance track negotiations. So, in the Sherpa track negotiations, the civil servants of that particular country will negotiate. Okay, so Sherpas, they should take up on this particular agenda. Okay. Now, it is being provided that Russia will also accept India's role as a honest peace broker, because guys, when we talk about the India had a track record that India has always been a good friend of Russia and Russia of India. Okay, and because of the confidence that exists between the Russia and India, whatever India will decide, being the president of G20, to bring this particular war to an end, Russia will accept because of that heightened confidence that exists. That is something that is there. Moreover, when we talk about, guys, this particular thing, into the past also, India had a very good track record that India has diffused such kind of tensions. For example, we see this particular thing that onto the Palestine. Okay, when between the Israel and the Arab world, the Palestinian dispute was there. The Palestine matter has been handled by India very sensitively. Okay, two-state solution that we have proposed, it is something which have been appreciated, and a healing touch has been given to both the sides. Moreover, India also played a very good efforts to prevent the expulsion of the Egypt from the non-aligned movement, because of the Arab world once turned against the Egypt. Then we find this particular thing that India also has a flexibility in negotiations. Okay, because of that particular thing and the goodwill that India has earned into the past, India can play a very important role in the G20, and at the G20 we need to make sure, we need to try that the transition of G20 from an economic blocking towards the strategic blocking should happen. This is something that is the message of this particular article. And actually, guys, if you are following the newspaper analysis regularly, we are finding very good articles which are talking as how the G20 blocking can actually be utilized by India. Very good article. Now we'll move to the next article. Expand the food safety net without any more delay. This particular article will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, issues of hunger. Issues of hunger. Now, let's start with the discussion. So basically guys, when we talk about the hunger, always keep in your mind two things. Okay. Number one, we in India had provided the right to food, and that right has been provided under the National Food Security Act 2013. Under National Food Security Act 2013, it's provided that 75% people into the rural India, 50% people into the urban India, and total 66% people in the pan India, okay, will be provided the subsidized food. 3 rupees kg rice, 2 rupees kg wheat, and 1 rupee kg the coarse grains will be provided. 5 kg per person entitlement will be provided. 5 kg per person. However, there are certain households which are very poor. We called them as the Antyodaya Ann Yojana households. In the Antyodaya Ann Yojana households, the 35 kg entitlement per household will be provided. Okay, so we have the National Food Security Act 2013. And under the National Food Security Act, the food can actually be availed by the PDS, Public Distribution System. Under the PDS, there are the fair price shops, that is the ration shops. From there, the food can be availed. Okay, this is something that is happening. Now, when we talk about the role of the National Food Security Act, just a minute. When we talk about the role of the National Food Security Act, it has proved to be a crucial safety net for around 800 million people, okay, around 80 crore people during the times of the pandemic, because we know that into the pandemic there was the economic vulnerability. During the time of pandemic, the people were suffering, so there it became as a lifeline. And for that particular thing, even the international organization such as the FAO has appreciated India for it. Now, moreover, during the time of the pandemic, government also doubled the entitlements to the 800 million people. So I told you that as per NFSA, 5 kg food grain per individual is to be provided. Additional 5 kg was also provided only during the time of pandemic, and for that, government came out with the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana. Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, that was to be done. Okay, but actually there is one particular Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana. But actually there is a criticism of this particular act. And guys, what is this criticism? I'll tell you in a very simple words. The criticism goes like this, that actually the food can only be availed by those people who have the ration cards, If you don't have ration card, you cannot avail the food. Now, basically the number of ration cards that have been given, they have been given onto the basis of 2011 census. Now you see that the National Food Security Act came in 2013, and that point of a time, the latest census was of 2011. So on that particular basis, ration card has been given. But now the population has increased, and as population is increasing, new ration cards to the people who need the food the most, they are not being issued. So basically it has been provided that it is the mandate of the NFSA. It is the mandate of the NFSA that 75% of the rural population and up to 50% of the urban population will be covered. And this 75% on the basis of 2011 census is being covered. 50% of the urban population is being covered onto the basis of 2011 census. Let's say in 2011 census, the urban population, let's say, was 10 crore. So only 5 crore people will be covered, not more than that. But now the population is increasing. So how to accommodate these poor people? That is one very big criticism of the National Food Security Act. Okay, it has been provided that a sensible policy should have inbuilt mechanism for updating the coverage annually, but we have not done any kind of an updation up till now. And we know that particular thing, that 2021 census would be postponed indefinitely. Government had said this thing. So when these people who need food, they will be covered. Because of that particular thing, guys, because of this government's inaction, a petition has also been filed into the Supreme Court of India. Okay, and the case has been filed under the problems and miseries of migrant labor case. Okay, so this writ petition has been filed, and here the Supreme Court had directed the government that the government need to come out with a formula, okay, or to come out with a scheme, so that the benefits under the NFSA should not be restricted only to the people as per the 2011 census. More people should be covered, so that formula should be derived. But what has happened? The government had given a delayed response, and they said that we can give the enhanced food grains only after an amendment in the act is brought. Without an amendment, we cannot do anything. So the PDS freeze, that has been there, it will continue. That is something that has happened. Now guys, the court has already said that okay, up abhi dekho, the change will come only after an amendment, and amendment will happen only when the census will happen. But first of all, census is not there. If census is not there, amendment will not come, and if amendment will not come, the food will not be given. So this is something that is happening. Now the court has provided this particular thing, that what we can do, we can use the population projection. Population projection. What is the population projection? See, in 2011, let's say there was the X population. So we project that okay, in 2015, in 2018, in 2020, what will be the population growth? Onto the basis of this, projections can be made. So we already have the official population projection for 2021 with the Registrar General of India. So these projections can be used, and on the basis of these projections, the amendment can be brought. Now, even a question is also being raised that why you restricted the population of 75% in rural area and 50% into the urban area. Now, Niti Aayog has given the justification in this particular direction, and Niti Aayog it said that this particular thing, that we expected that over the period of time, the standard of living of people will improve. Okay, over the period of time, it was expected that the poverty will go down, people will earn more money, the standard of living will increase. So therefore, they will not need the food under the NFSA. So therefore, the ceiling of 75% in rural and 50% into the urban area was instituted. Now guys, as the center government is not providing the food to many more people, what had happened? The several state governments, particularly the poor states such as the Chhattisgarh, Odisha, they have to expand coverage, fine, from their own quotas. So basically, apart from the 800 million people's food that is being provided by the central government under the NFSA, additional 90 million people's food is being provided by the state government's quotas, and the state governments are incurring a lot of cost by that particular thing. So therefore, there can be certain suggestions that can be given. Number one, see this thing, that there is a robust procurement. From the last couple of years, the agriculture of India is performing very well. The food stocks are well in comfortable range with the government. So therefore, just enhancing the coverage by 10% will not be a very big problem. So already 809 million people are being covered. If we increased 10%, that is around 80 million. Okay, so it will mean around 900 million people will get a coverage, and this is something which will be good and should be done. Moreover, it has been provided that while extension of double rations, double the central government's food subsidy bill, it helped the government control the storage problem also, which is there. Now see this thing, though you gave the more food, I told you under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, double food was given. So by that particular thing, actually what happened, government's storage problem also got addressed. Then moving on. After that, the next issue that is coming, the next suggestion that is being coming here is that actually Supreme Court needs to be very much rigid. Supreme Court needs to direct, and here if needed, Supreme Court can also use the Article 142, under which the Supreme Court gets an extraordinary power. Okay, so that is something that needs to be done. Now guys, that is all about it. I hope guys that you have understood it, and now we'll move to the next article. Collegium's final decision alone needs to be in public domain, Supreme Court. Okay, now this particular article guys will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, RTI and the scope of RTI, as well as in GS paper number 4 the RTI has been mentioned. So there we'll see this particular article. Now first of all, what is this particular entire issue guys? I will tell you. Now understand that when we talk about the appointment of the Supreme Court judges, as well as when we talk about the appointment of High Court judges and High Court judges transfer, these three matters are decided by the Supreme Court Collegium. Number one, for the appointment of Supreme Court judge, the Collegium will contain Chief Justice of India plus 4 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Secondly, for appointment of the High Court judges, the Collegium will contain the CJ plus 2 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Okay, now what actually will be agreed at the consensus, that particular suggestion will be given to the president. Okay, for example, let's say that the Supreme Court judge 4 Supreme Court judges are to be appointed. So their names will be given by these five five collegium representatives, that is the CJ and the 4 Supreme Court judges. Now while they are discussing that particular matter, there will be certain out of these 4 senior most judges, somebody will dissent, somebody will be not be aligned with one particular type of a name, or something can happen. Now it has been provided that the discussions that were made while this particular deliberation is going on, that is not to be kept into the public domain. Okay, only the final decision is to be kept into the public domain, and only that particular decision can be only on that particular thing can be asked as an information under the RTI also, Right to Information Act. Understand this particular thing. The article is saying, the article, now what has happened, the Supreme Court has held that only the final decision of the top court collegium needs to be published into the public domain. A final decision would mean a resolution that has been drawn finally. Is it clear or not? Now it has been provided that, guys, only onto the basis of the collegium. You know, I have already told you that the president appoints the judges. Article 124 is for Supreme Court and Article 217 is for High Court. Now it has been provided that the decisions of the multi-member collegium before the required deliberative consultative process are concluded need not to be put in the public domain via publication Supreme Court website, nor they cannot be asked under the ambit of the RT Act of 2005. Okay, so point is that, guys, now guys, see this particular thing. Two things, collegium, two things. One is the discussion, and other is the final decision. So only final decision is something whose information can be asked under the RTI. This discussions information cannot be asked. It is a confidential matter. This is the ruling that has been given by the Supreme Court. Okay, so this is, guys, a very important aspect with respect to the scope of the RTI Act. Okay, now some people will criticize it, some people will appreciate it. They'll say that it is at the end of the day internal conduct of the code, and the Supreme Court already under the Article 145 of the Indian Constitution has the power to determine the matter of its mode of operation, its mode of conduct. So they can do that thing. Some people will criticize. Okay, so this is something that might happen. That is all about this particular article, guys, and now we'll move to the next article. India not as decoupled, still on a sticky path, economist. So basically, guys, what has happened now here, you don't need to know the name of the economist or the organization in which they are working, but certain viewpoints have been given. Number one viewpoint, it has been said that, see, right now, first of all, you might be knowing that in the world there is the global recession that is going on, global inflation is going on, global slowdown is going on, but comparatively in India, we find that inflation is controlled, growth not that much good, but the growth is decent, that is happening. So it appears that India is decoupled. India is not intricately economically intertwined with the world. It appears that particular thing, but it is, and therefore it is being said that into the short term, India is immune from the global economic recession, but it is not completely correct. Is it clear? India is still connected, and therefore India still needs to focus that how they will be bringing their own economic revival. It has been provided that though we have observed this particular thing, that India's growth had outpaced the global growth, mostly because the India's base was small. And not because India is completely immune. Our economy, Indian economy, is well synchronized with the world. So basically, what will be the impact into the world economy, global economy, that particular impact will come onto the India as well. Now, the article is also talking about that, see, into the past, China has played a very important role in absorbing the slowdown that has come. See this particular thing. Basically, the China had a double-digit growth. And whenever the recession came into the past, let's say it was 2008 and 9 global financial subprime crisis that came. At that point of a time, China was robust and China provided a kind of a stimulus. But now the China's growth is also compromised. Why? Number one, because of the China's zero COVID policy that China follows. Whenever the cases increase in China, they go under the complete lockdown. Moreover, the China's economy is not that robust as it used to happen 10 years back. So the China is not the one who will absorb this global recession. So this is something that we need to focus upon, and what we can do, we should focus on to the private capital expenditure. Public capital expenditure, government capital expenditure is decent, but private sector are not investing into the capital expenditure. So by that particular thing, the volatility can be managed. By that particular thing, the certainty can be brought in Indian economy. So this is something that has been provided. That's all about this article, guys, and now we'll move to the next article. Okay, so guys, now we have the mains practice question for today. So today's mains practice question, it is for GS paper number 2, issues of hunger. So question reads that the National Food Security Act 2013, National Food Security Act 2013 provides a crucial safety net for roughly 800 million people. However, the humanitarian crisis resulting from COVID-19 lockdown made it apparent that too many were still excluded from the PDS. Critically analyze and suggest the remedial measures. Clear? So this particular will be 10 marker answer. Please write it, and guys, that is all for the today's newspaper analysis. So that is all, guys. I hope that you are liking the initiative, and I hope that this initiative is helping you in your preparation. Guys, if you think that the session is helping you out, you can reciprocate us by hitting the like button. You can leave your lovely comments. As I always say, that your comments and your support is the most crucial aspect of our initiative. So you can support us by liking and by leaving your lovely comments. So that is all for today. Now, guys, we'll be meeting again on Monday. Fine. Till then, please take care of yourselves. Thank you so much.